Hello, hi student. Today we are going to cover lecture 7. Okay, lecture 7 covers managing conflict and negotiating effectively. This actually covered in chapter 13 in one of the book, which is this book, Don Hygro and Slocum. All right, if you want to read further, you could probably borrow this book from the library if you want, but I have made this slide more comprehensive as you know, we do not have a face-to-face lecture, so I've made this slide more comprehensive and with more details which you might not have in your slide, the original slide that you have. Okay, anyway, I will upload this slide which has the updated version into Google Classroom, and you can actually download the new one and read it from there. Okay, let's start. All right, here what we're going to cover in this lecture would be what is conflict. Okay, there are certain level. Okay, people meet other people, we work in groups, we also ourselves, you know, we have conflict within our own self, we have conflict with other people, we also have conflict when we work in groups. Okay, in a team, at work, we might encounter many conflicts, especially when we work with other people, and also we cannot run away from our own intra personal conflict, which means these are the conflicts that we have within ourselves. Okay, we also will cover and explain the common interpersonal conflict handling style, how people handle conflict, where you know, there are certain alternatives that we use in handling conflict. We also going to cover additional things apart from conflict, which is negotiating style, and we also have we will also cover what are the negotiation process. Okay, because when we have conflict, we have conflict with other people. Normally we have to sort you know, up it to sort into negotiating with these people. Okay, we're negotiating with other people to achieve common goal. All right. Firstly, we need to understand what is conflict. Right, basically conflict is a process in which one party or a person or group perceive that its interests are being opposed or negatively affected by another party. So then this is when we experience conflict, when people don't understand us, and sometimes they don't agree with us. Okay, or we also don't agree with these people. Okay, we don't agree with our friends, we don't agree with our colleagues, we don't agree with our subordinates, our co-worker. We sometimes don't agree with our family as well. So conflict happens. Okay, it happens most of the time. So we have to find common ground, how to compromise, okay, to make sure that this conflict don't exist. Okay, and both of us understand each other, and to achieve one common goal, or to achieve one point that we agree with each other. Okay, right, how do we manage conflict? So basically we need to see the process, diagnostic process. We also need to use interpersonal styles to handle conflict, and we also need to use, as I said before, negotiation strategy. You need to negotiate to achieve common ground, you need to negotiate to achieve one common goal. Okay, so this is designed to actually avoid unnecessary conflict, and we also need to reduce this is how we manage to reduce and resolve excessive conflict. Okay, all right, so there are primary levels of conflict in organization. Okay, we start off with intrapersonal. okay? Intrapersonal, interpersonal, intragroup, and intergroup, okay? So we'll look in our next slide, we will look what is intrapersonal conflict, what is interpersonal, intragroup, and intragroup and intergroup. All right, so let's look at this. Interpersonal conflict, or let's look at intrapersonal conflict first, the second point, yeah? Intrapersonal conflict happen when you have you feel conflicted about your own thoughts or action. So with basically intrapersonal conflict happens within ourselves. You know, sometimes we want to make certain decision and we don't know whether the decision is right or the decision is wrong. So we might want to do some action, a certain action that we need to, you know, to do. Okay, we may, but we don't know whether, you know, what is the negative, positive outcome, or whether it has a negative outcome. So we start to think and start to go, and we have a dilemma within ourselves. That is what we call intrapersonal conflict. All right. So interpersonal conflict. So this exists between two people. Okay, you have, you know, conflict with your friends, you have conflict with your boyfriends, your girlfriend, you have conflict with family, your parents probably. So interpersonal conflict can be seen anytime two people disagree on a topic. So you disagree with what they say, and they also might disagree with what you say. So interpersonal conflict will happen. Okay, this is called interpersonal conflict. All right, the next one we are going to look at is called intra-group conflict. Okay, we do have intra-group conflict. This happens when you are working within a group. Okay, this is a conflict within group or team. So you might not you might disagree with your team member. Okay, you might disagree over the goals and the procedure that you are doing within a team, right? So you might, there are some people in the group that might not be doing a work that they are supposed to, and you are upset. You are not agreeing with what they do. So this happen in an intra-group conflict. So intra-group conflict is a conflict that happens within your own team or within your own group. All right. Whereas the last one is intergroup conflict. Okay, intergroup conflict is when a conflict happens between groups inside and outside an organization, disagree on various issues. Okay, so basically you have two teams that are working on a certain project, for example, and then these two teams, maybe one is a marketing team, another one is a production team. All right, so and the marketing team might not agree with what the production team is doing, and let's say the production did not produce much, did not produce enough, so that and it actually below the demand of the marketing team. All right, the marketing team need for the production team to produce more because they have actually sold or market more to the customer, and suddenly the production team are not able to cope up with the production. So this happen in an intergroup conflict. So this just remember, intergroup conflict is what is happen, a disagreement on certain issue within two team or two groups. All right, so let's look at intrapersonal conflict. Okay, we are looking at intrapersonal conflict. What happened? These are basic types of intrapersonal conflict. Okay, so we will go for sometimes, whether we realize if it's it or not, we go through certain types of intrapersonal conflict. One first basic types of intrapersonal conflict is called, according to the book, is actually called approach conflict. So what is approach conflict? So approach conflict happen when there's conflict within a person where he or she needs to decide between two appealing goals. Okay, two goals that are good, two goals that are positive. Okay, and the conflict is typically resolved when there's movement towards one of the goals. So this make it easier to make final decision. So you have two very good goals, positive goals that you want to achieve, but whether you want to, for example, approach conflict can happen when, for example, you decide to get married. Okay, you already have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you decide to get married, or at the same time, whether you are deciding whether you want to further your study and follow and further your study to go higher, for example. Okay, to move higher, to further your study. So these are two good goals. Okay, but you have to decide which one you want to do first. You want to get married or you want to further your study. Okay, so these are two good goals and it's called approach conflict, and this happen within our own self. Okay, next one is called avoidance conflict. Okay, this also happen within ourselves, remember, because it's intrapersonal conflict. So avoidance conflict happen when people have conflict when faced with two outcomes that are undesirable. That means both are undesirable. You don't want it to happen, but you have to make a choice. Okay, which one you have to do. Okay, so this lesson defines and discuss avoidance conflict. This includes those that we encounter every day. Okay, you don't want to go to class, maybe not class lah. You avoidance things that you don't want to happen. Okay, both. Okay, both things, both negative things that you want to happen, you don't want it to happen, but you need to choose either one. Okay, less negative. All right, so this happened within ourselves as well. And the next one that happen within ourselves is called approach avoidance conflict. Okay, approach avoidance conflict occurs when an individual is faced when a decision to pursue or avoid something that has advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so that means one is good, one is you going towards a goal, another one is you want to avoid something. Okay, right, this is easier because this form of conflict involves only one goal. Okay, the name comes from advantages of the goal making the person want to approach the goal, and the disadvantages making him or her want to avoid it. Okay, you have something, whether you want to do it, avoid the get the goal, or you want to avoid. Okay, so something, these are negative, one negative things that you want to avoid, another one is something that you want to get. Okay, it's something positive, so it makes it easier for us to make decision. Okay, in an approach avoidance conflict. All right, so next thing, we are looking at the conditions that increases the intensity of intrapersonal conflict. Okay, why do we feel so stressed? Okay, when we have that some factors that increases the intensity of intrapersonal conflict. Why it makes intrapersonal conflict more difficult? Okay, when we're making decision, first we have to make decision and we think of many realistic alternatives that are available. Okay, that means there are so many alternatives that we can do. There's plan A, plan B, plan C, all the things that you think you should do, but you have to choose. You have to actually choose the best one. okay, the best one for yourself. So it makes it more intense, it makes it more stressful because you have so many alternatives to choose from. Okay, right, there are also positive and negative consequences of the alternatives, okay, or sometimes equal. So you don't know where to choose because there are so many like positive consequences. Some if you make this decision A, there are so many positive consequences. If you make decision A, there are also negative consequences. You know, there are plus and minus if you make certain decisions. So it makes it more difficult for us to make decision. Therefore, the intensity of the conflict becomes higher. Okay, and also the source of conflict is also important to individual. Where does the conflict start? Is it your, you know, is it because of your work? Is it your life conflict? Okay, is it your study, in your study, in your school, in your university? So that's the source of conflict also make it more intense. Okay, so for example, let's say if the conflict is a small conflict, for example, where do you want to eat for lunch today? Okay, that is a small conflict, so it's not intense. You can make decision, although you can say, okay, go here, it's hot because no aircon, okay, and go to this restaurant, or this restaurant, it has aircon. That is all the alternative that you are thinking about. Okay, but it is not intense because the source of the conflict is very small. Okay, it's just lunch. Okay, but when the source of conflicts gets bigger, when it comes when it is involve your life, for example, involve your study, involve your work, involve your family, then it becomes more intense. Okay, so these are the source of conflict. Is also important to individual. Alright, next one, we are going to go into interpersonal conflict. Okay, just now we covered intrapersonal, now we are covering interpersonal conflict. So in interpersonal conflict, basically this is a perception that attitudes, behavior, or preferred goals are in opposition. So, you know, interpersonal conflict, sometimes we get conflict with people that has different attitudes with us. They have different behavior from us, okay, and they also have different goals from us. So everything is opposite. Okay, that's where conflict comes in, when you are not the same with other people, or people are not the same, they don't think like you. Okay, so interpersonal conflict will happen. All right, so interpersonal conflict depends on the role, our role in the society, our role in that situation, our role in that organization. Okay, so it depends on our role. So role is basically the behavior that people expected from us. Okay, the behavior expected of an individual who occupies a given social position or status. Okay, your role, let's say if you're a manager, so that you hold a role as a manager. Okay, if you're a role as a student, okay, what is your role as a student? Okay, what you are supposed to do as a student, how do you supposed to act, how do you supposed to behave as a student? That is considered as your role. Okay, right, and sometimes you have role conflict. Okay, role conflict occurs when there are incompatible demand placed upon a person relating to their job or position. Okay, for example, you might have a role conflict. For example, you are a manager. Okay, so you have a role as a manager, and you have a son or a daughter that is working for you. Okay, so you also have a role as a father. So these are the role conflict might happen because as a person, we actually we can be in different roles all at the same time. So for example, you are a teacher, at the same time you are also a wife, you are also a mother. Okay, you are also a daughter to your parents. Okay, so that is what role conflict. So you know, so we have to juggle between these roles. Okay, we have to juggle between this role, and role conflict might occur. Okay, so for example, as I said just now, you are a manager, okay, or you are a boss in the company. You are a boss, and you hire your son or your daughter to be your employees. Okay, so there's a role conflict there when you also need to be a boss to your own son or your own daughter. Okay, so that is an example of role conflict. Okay, so you have to, that can be a conflict there, because you need to juggle between being a father and also being a boss, okay, to your own son or to your own daughter. All right, next one is the role set. Role set happen in interpersonal conflict where you have to be in a variety of roles and relationship you have as a result of your status in the society. So people expect a person to be or to behave, okay, a certain way. So it's being set. Okay, a certain people is being set their role. Let's say if they are a student, you're supposed to behave in a certain way. So these are set of roles that you have to be in, you have to portray in the society. Okay, so that is the meaning of role set. All right, okay, next one. Okay, we will go into intra-group conflict. So what is intra-group conflict? Is basically a dispute among some or all of the group's members, which often affect group dynamics and effectiveness. As I mentioned before, this happen within the group. Okay, often a problem in family-run business among family members. Okay, so family members, if family-run business, they don't have, they are many conflict within the group, as I've already explained to you that just now, intra-group conflict where you have if you're doing your assignment, for example, you have a group, they have a team member, and you're not agreeing or disagree with what the other team member are doing. Okay, so that is called intra-group conflict. Okay, and also intergroup conflict. So this happen when you don't have you have a disagreement, you have dispute within within other groups, with other groups, as what I've mentioned earlier on, where the marketing team has a dispute or a conflict with the production team. All right, so in order to increase or reduce intergroup conflict, okay, people or individuals have to focus on common sources, such as the goal incompatibility. So they have to be compatible with the goals. Okay, they have to look at the differentiation between themselves. What difference do they have between each other? So they have to come up with common goals and common way in doing things. Okay, and they have to also consider task interdependency. So intergroup conflict happen when the tasks between the two groups are interdependent. Okay, people for example, as I mentioned just now, marketing team depending on production team, okay, to produce products. Okay, where the marketing team is doing the marketing, and they have to rely on production to produce the products. Okay, so they are highly interdependent. So this might increase the degree of conflict, because they are dependent on each other. Okay, and also it could also happen because of limited resources. Okay, so it could also happen, it happened because of the incompatible goal. The goal are not the same. Okay, they have different goals, they want to achieve different things. They also have a big differentiation between the two teams. Okay, they have different behavior, different attitude, that could also increase intergroup conflict. All right, intergroup conflict also happen or increase when there are task interdependency. And also the last one, when there are limited resources, for example, not enough budget, for example, not enough budget, not enough workers, you know, they are fighting for workers, they are fighting for budget. That will also happen in an intergroup conflict. Okay. Okay, in interpersonal conflict, okay, interpersonal conflict also happen. This is a new slides that I added because I put in more explanation there, okay, so that you can read on. Okay, so interpersonal conflict, okay, we go back to interpersonal conflict. So there are few interpersonal conflict handling style. Okay, how do we handle certain conflict within an individual? Okay, so you can read on with this to this. Okay, first style, okay, you know that interpersonal conflict is a conflict between two people, okay, that has conflict when they have disagreement, they're not happy with each other, they have different goals, okay. So that is interpersonal conflict. There are ways, okay, for people to handle interpersonal conflict. Okay, the first way or the first style is called accommodating style. Okay, so what is accommodating style? This is a style where you accommodating style forgo your own needs or desire in exchange for those of others. Okay, so you accommodating is when people accommodate each other. Okay, they just agree, so they just try to find a common ground so that they can accommodate the others. Okay, they can accommodate whatever that the person is saying. For example, they just agree, okay, so that they find common ground and you know, saying people, okay, you are right. Okay, that is accommodating. Okay, avoiding style is another way. Avoiding style completely evades the conflict. So evades means you avoid the conflict. Okay, so as a person, you would neither pursue your belief nor those of the others involved. So that means we just avoid your belief and also avoid the others. Okay, this style could be appropriate to use when the conflict seems very trivial, you don't have the time or need more time to think. So that means you just avoid the conflict. Okay, you don't want to, you just avoid lah. Basically, you just don't want to, you know, you don't want to you just want to forget. Okay, you just want to forget about the conflict. Okay, so you feel as though you have no chance of winning, or you're afraid of being met with resentment. So basically, you know, you just avoid, you don't want to talk about it, for example. Okay, that is avoiding. Okay, next one, people can go for collaborating style. Okay, collaborating style attempts to find a solution that will meet the needs of all parties. So you collaborate, you find a common goal. It's basically win-win situation. You collaborate. Okay, so this style could be appropriate when multiple perspectives need to be addressed. There is an important relationship present between the parties. The final solution is too important for anyone to be displeased. So everyone is happy because everyone try to accommodate. Okay, you win, all win, or some all win and all lose at the same time. So that is collaborating. And the next one is called forcing style. This one is in the name. You force other people to agree with you. Okay, you use your veto. You know, you say, you force other people. Okay, that means I'm the boss. Okay, I say A, then it's A. Okay, everyone have to accept. Okay, this is forcing style. All right, and the last one is compromising. Okay, compromising style attempts to find a solution that will at least partially please all parties. So this one is almost the same as collaborating, but this is another thing called compromising. So you compromise each other. Okay, some people will, you know, negotiate low, maybe some people would say, you know, you find common ground, okay, you compromise each other, okay, so you will work to find a middle ground between all the needs, okay, everyone is happy or everyone compromise. You cannot get everything, so you get half and the others get half. That is compromising, okay. So compromising, you know, it happen when the best example would be husband and wife, okay. This is the best example I could give, where you compromise, okay, you compromise almost everything, okay. You cannot get everything in a relationship. You cannot get everything in a husband and wife situation. When you get married, when you have a relationship, you have a boyfriend and girlfriend, you know, to make a relationship happen, you have to compromise, okay. There are good things and bad things about a certain individual, so you have to accept as it is, okay. So you have to compromise. They also have to accept you. That means the person also, your boyfriend, your girlfriend also need to compromise, okay. So that is an example of compromising, okay. That is another way of handling conflict, interpersonal conflict, okay. All right, so now back to this figure, okay. This is to show us, okay, where is the best style used, okay. So which style is the best for what situation, okay. So if you see here, okay, concern for self means, you know, you are concerned about yourself. Assertive means you are very concerned about your own self, and this one is concerned about other people, okay. You always think about other people, okay. So basically, in assertiveness environment, if you're an assertive person, you know, you always use forcing style, okay. And unassertiveness, that means sometimes you would go for avoiding, and also, okay, avoiding, you become for concern of other people, uncooperative and cooperative, okay. So we can see most people who are very cooperative, okay, and also high as concern of self will go for collaborating and accommodating, okay. And also this one, uncooperative, will avoid, unassertive also using avoid, okay. And you don't want, because you don't want to, you know, uncooperative, unassertive, okay. You're not cooperating, and also you sometimes think of people, so you use avoiding and also forcing. And if you see here, I put compromising, the book put compromising in between. So basically, compromising is a combination of all, okay. When you are concerned for others and also concerned for yourself, you know, we sometimes go for compromising, okay. All right, so we compromise. Compromise is the best solution for interpersonal conflict, okay. All right, okay, so we will look at this different style. When is the best time to use collaborating style? So collaborating style is useful when cooperation is needed, okay. When you have a parity in power, okay, you don't have very high power, but you have a parity in power with others, okay, then you have and the other have the same power, okay. Both of people have mutual benefit. They want to gain benefit. And also when there is time and energy, okay, you have time to think, you have time to come to the common ground, you have the energy to actually you know, talk about it and try to discuss to actually gain common ground. So the collaborating style is the best in this situation, okay. The next one is compromising style. So use compromise style when agreement better than no agreement, okay. So you compromise, you want to agree, okay. You want to achieve common ground, you want to achieve good things, okay. You want both to be happy, so we use compromise style, okay. It's compromising style if you want a total win-win, when a total win-win situation is not possible, okay. Both cannot get 100% what they want, so they have to compromise. Okay, they have to reduce a little bit, and another party also have to reduce a little bit. Okay, lose, that means both losing, or win-win, maybe not win too much, but you have to compromise. Okay, and also when you have a conflicting goal that actually block the agreement. Okay, there are other goals, your goals are conflicting. Okay, then there's no way for you to come to a common ground. That's where you need to compromise. Okay, all right, next one is when is the best for forcing style. So use forcing style when it is a decision that has to be made quickly. Okay, emergency and quick action is required. Okay, there's no time to discuss long, to have a long discussion. So no time, you need to make a very quick decision. So one person, especially the manager, have to make this quick decision by using forcing style. Okay, this is very unpopular action. Okay, so you have to, but you have to force this action because you have to make decision quickly. Okay, and self-protective action is needed. Sometimes it's happen when you want to protect yourself. Okay, then you use forcing style. And the next one is accommodating style. Okay, you want to diffuse explosive situation. You don't want things to be bigger. Okay, you don't want people, it's almost the same as compromising. Okay, you accommodate other people. You want other people to be happy. Okay, you want a short run harmony. Okay, you want everyone to be happy, as I said just now. Okay, you don't want conflict. You want to just stop the conflict, so you try to accommodate. Okay, and you want to have a good personality. Okay, fundamental personality conflict. So that's why you want people to like you. That's where you use accommodating style. All right. Okay, and the last one is avoiding style. Okay, avoiding style sometimes doesn't require, when people use avoiding style when the conflict is not a very big conflict. Okay, it can be avoided. Okay, you can say, oh, never mind, I don't want to think about it. Okay, so when the issue is very small or minor. Okay, you're using avoiding style when you don't have enough information, insufficient information for you to make decision. So you will say, okay, never mind, forget about it, we're not going to think about this. Okay, because you have insufficient information. When you also have low power to make decision, also you avoid, we use avoiding style. And when you know that other people can resolve this conflict for you, so other people will think about it. Okay, you don't need to think. Okay, this conflict is not big a deal for you, other people will resolve it. So that's where you avoid. We use avoiding style. Okay, all right, next we have finished conflict. Okay, now we are going to cover negotiation. Okay, so when people encounter any conflict, they have to find a common point, a common ground where they can agree with each other. People start to agree with each other and accommodate with each other and compromise with each other. So that's where people use negotiation. People negotiate. We negotiate with the others. Okay, we negotiate within interpersonal. We negotiate within groups. Okay, even outside the group, intergroup, intra-group, we always negotiate to achieve common goal or to achieve decision. Okay, to make common ground. Okay, so people negotiate. So what is actually negotiation? Okay, negotiation is a process in which two or more parties exchange goods or services and attempt to agree upon the exchange rate for them. This is basically the definition of negotiation, but actually the negotiation that we are covering here is basically, okay, we negotiate or bargaining interchangeably. That means we negotiate. okay, to achieve common ground. Okay, negotiation can also be a process when two parties exchange goods or services and also exchange what they want. Okay, that is also negotiation. Okay, you negotiate to achieve what you want. Okay, so they also negotiate to achieve what they want. So it's the same thing as what we cover here. Okay, what we cover here is a process of interchange. Okay, you negotiate to achieve what you want. Okay, so how do people negotiate? There are 5 steps of negotiation process. Okay, here you can see the first step is preparation and planning. Okay, the next step is definition of ground rules, clarification and justification, bargaining and problem solving, and the last step is closure and implementation. So these are the 5 steps in negotiation process. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Okay, all right, I've added a few more slides for this because I want you to if in real lecture I can explain further, but this time, you know, I want you to do self-learning. So I've added 3 more slides for this. Okay, so I will upload this into Google Classroom. So the first thing in preparation and planning, okay, before the start of any negotiation, you must be aware of the conflict. So what is the conflict actually? Okay, how it happened, why are the source of conflict, okay, the history leading to the negotiation of the people involved and their perception towards the conflict. Okay, what is their expectation, and also what is their expectation from the negotiation. Okay, so before starting the negotiation, we need to do homework, okay, to know where it's the source of the conflict, what is the nature of the conflict, what's the history leading up to this negotiation. Okay, and the last one, we also need to prepare and assess of what the other parties' negotiation goals are. You need to know, how do they negotiate. That means you have to do preparation and planning before we can negotiate. Okay, the next one is called definition of ground rules. Okay, so what happened in definition of ground rules? So this happened once the planning and strategies are developed. One has to begin defining the ground rules and procedure with the other party over the negotiation itself. That will do the negotiation. So for example, okay, what are the ground rules? So we would have to go through, know where will it take place, what time, if any, apply. Okay, to what issue will the negotiation be limited to? Okay, will there be a specific procedure to follow? And during this phase, the party will also exchange their initial proposal or demand. Okay, this happened in definition and ground rules. Okay, the next is to clarify and justify what is the conflict. Okay, when initial position have been exchanged, both the party will explain and clarify and justify their original demand. So this is when you clarify what you want actually. Okay, so you need to see the person and know and clarify and justify what is your demand, what do you want to exchange, what you want to achieve. Okay, and this happen in clarification and justification. Okay, and next step number 4 is called bargaining and problem solving. This is when the negotiation happen. You start to bargain. Okay, the essence of negotiation process is the actual give and take in trying to hash out an agreement. So basically, this is the part where you do the bargaining. Okay, it's a win-win situation, win-lose situation. Okay, you start to bargain so that you can solve problem and find a common ground, whether you compromise, accommodate, whether you force or avoid. Okay, all this can happen in the bargaining and problem solving stage, which is stage 4. And the last one is closure and implementation. So this is a final step in the negotiation process. It's where you formalization of the agreement, okay, that has been worked out, and developing and procedures that are necessary for implementation and monitoring. Okay, So for major negotiation, this will require hammering out the specific informal contract. Okay, so implementation. So if you, these are about negotiation in a big project. Okay, implementation is when you sign the contract, you agree. Okay, you sign MOU. For example, MOU is memorandum of understanding. So both parties understand that this thing will happen. Okay, so this is where negotiation stop and ends. All right. Okay, so we are talking about negotiation here, and basically negotiation is in an organization. Okay, negotiation in an organization, and how we find a common ground to resolve conflict, and also in terms of how we get agreement with each other. Okay. Alright, so this is the last slide, which is a summary and implication for managers. Okay, we can summarize that we cannot assume that one conflict handling style or strategy is the best. So there are always certain situations where we need to use certain conflict handling style. Okay, so that's why there are 5 there. Okay, there are 5 different conflict handling style. So any of them, all these, like forcing, collaborating, avoiding, accommodating, and also last one, compromising. Okay, all could be best in different situation. Okay, so there's no one handling style that is good for everything. Okay, so there are certain situation, certain decision have to be made using different style. Okay, it depends on the situation. It also depends on the the conflict itself, how big is the conflict. It also depends on the source of the conflict. All right, and this requires different conflict handling strategy or different conflict handling style. Okay, so I think that's all for now for lecture 7. All right, so I will upload lecture 7 in lecture 7 and also lecture 8 and 9 soon. All right, so hopefully you understand what I have talked about and whatever that we discussed. So if you have any further question, you could probably ask me or ask your tutor. All right, we are there for you. All right, thank you. Bye bye.